Recording here. So apologies for anyone watching this later. I just went through a beginning spiel, no important information. But if you're watching this on YouTube a little bit later, I just resumed recording. We're getting into the nitty gritty now of this. My name again is Dannika Rynes. I'm the Senior Manager of Communications and Media Relations with CA. So as you just heard, this session is being recorded. It will be posted for anyone who couldn't make it this evening. We are on Zoom webinar. If you aren't familiar with this format, that means you are not on camera, which hopefully is a welcome thing at 5 o'clock on a Thursday evening. You can kick back and relax and definitely get in some comfy gear for this to just take some information in. We will have some time for Q&A, so please submit your questions instead of using the chat function. We're going to ask you to use the Q&A function. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, there should be two little speech bubbles. That's just a much better platform for us to monitor which questions have been answered and which haven't, so on, etc. And you can also ask questions anonymously in that form as well. So we may not get to every single question this evening. I'll do my best to combine questions and themes as we go along to make sure, again, that we're respecting everyone's time and to get as many questions answered as we can. And if, of course, you have follow-up questions after this session, you are more than welcome to reach out to CA or your respective village as well. All right, so we are going to get into it here. With us today are CA's Interim President and CEO, Dennis Mattey, our CFO and Senior Vice President, Susan Krabbe. Our current board co-chair, Eric Greenberg, will be joining us a little bit later on, but he will be here. And we have the Hickory Ridge Village Manager, Laura Mayton. And before we go any further, I did want to turn it over to Dennis for a few quick words and a welcome. Dennis.
So again, my name is Dennis Mattey. I'm the Interim President and CEO of the Columbia Association, and I've been here for something like 50 years. And people ask me why I've stayed so long. And I tell them I feel like I've won the location lottery in life. There's no place that I can imagine, no other place that I would want to be, no place more special. And thank you for participating tonight. CA is made remarkable by volunteers such as yourself who help us reach into the community and volunteer your time towards building a better community. Columbia is remarkable, made more remarkable by people such as yourself who take time, volunteer, not getting paid, but spend a lot of time helping us make Columbia better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. So we wanted to start this evening with a little bit of a level set here. We know a lot of you may have different experiences coming into this evening when it comes to our community or even Columbia Association specifically. So, we've noticed that even people who have lived here for decades, been members for decades, may not know all of the nooks and crannies of CA. So we are going to do a really high level overpass of what our organization is and really what makes it a community service organization. So we want to start first by who we serve, okay? And Columbia would be the second largest city in the state if it were incorporated. So there are about 105,000 people in Columbia proper, according to the census. So a quick snapshot as well of really who we serve from a race and ethnicity piece here. This graphic comes from the Howard County Library System's Inequities Within report. If you have not checked out that report, I would highly recommend it. It is chock full of really interesting information, just good information for all of us to know. And as you can see, the blue box is around the Columbia. Whether you knew it or not, we are a majority minority community. That was something that has been ingrained in this community since its start. The diversity is something that a lot of people take great pride in and a lot of people seek out our community for. So this is a different way of looking at who CA serves. So nearly 26,000 residential properties. We're looking at more than 1,100 commercial properties. We mention that because, and you may not know this, those commercial properties, if they are on CA lien property, do pay into the annual charge. We will cover that piece a little bit later here. 18,000 18,000 memberships, 18,000 memberships in the last fiscal year, and nearly 6,000 Columbia card holders. That is actually a benefit to anyone who pays the annual charge. It gives residents who are not necessarily members of our facilities access to a number of services and special rates for residents as well. And you may see at the bottom left here, nearly 2 million visits last fiscal year to our facilities and programs. You know, these are really places where community is happening each and every day. You can see more than 1 million visits to our sports and recreation facilities alone. A lot of people getting out golfing and playing pickleball and playing tennis and things like that. But that also includes, as we'll talk a little bit more about this here in a moment, our youth and teen programs, as well as all of our arts and culture programming, including the Arts Center. Okay, so here's one way to look at some things. We're going to look at pictures. I love pictures. Being a former journalist, this is the way I kind of take in information. So we're going to do a quick overview of really the different ways we show up for the community. And this really manifests a lot in the different departments that we have. So we're going to start with what's known internally as community operations. That includes things like our parks, pathways, and play areas. I apologize, I have a bigger screen over here. If I'm pointing to it, I'm a very talk with my hands person, and that's where my slides are. So parks, pathways, and play areas. You may, if you have kids, you may have interacted with one of our 170 plus tot lots. You may go run or bike on the pathways, 95 plus miles of pathway on any given day. So we manage all of that. On top of that, we are responsible for the maintenance of facilities, and this a wide range of facilities, I should say. That includes in the 10 villages there, and with 10 village associations, CA actually owns the buildings and maintains those, as well as the plaza. And then the villages deliver the services out of those facilities. Again, trying to give you some nuggets that you may not be familiar with. Community operations continued. You know, we do a lot around event services. You may primarily know us for our lakefront programming, but it is not limited to that. You can see in one of these photos, the third one down, that is the other barn, and our folks setting up, it looks like on a very rainy day, some of the tents that we have. So we are really out in the community providing really great programming, and our event services staff is a huge part of the support for that. Sustainability. This is something that if you have an interest in this space, you may have interacted with us here. Maybe you're a weed warrior or adopt a spot folks. Maybe you planted trees with us, or you've been interested in some of our energy efficiency programming. If not, that is all available to the community, and we would welcome anyone who wants to be a part of that. But on top of that, our team is making strides every day to make sure that we are respecting the land around us and our environment, and ensuring that we have a sustainable community for the future. And that includes things like being an inaugural partner for the Better Climate Challenge. That's actually a national effort that we signed up for or signed up with that commits us to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% over the next decade or so. We were actually invited to the White House recently for our accomplishments in that space. So, you know, be proud that you live in a community that really takes this stuff to heart and is recognized on a national level for it. We certainly have a lot of solar and wind credit things going on. We are quickly trying to change out as much of our fleet as possible for electric vehicles. You know, the list is endless in terms of what we can pursue in this space. And then this last bucket here for community operations is community development and real estate services. So you may think about this, you know, the scale and layers of easements on the land that we own. You know, we're working with residents to survey land. We're interacting with the Department of Planning and Zoning at the county level to make sure that, you know, we're collaborating with them. This is a master planned community, if you didn't know. And so this is certainly a huge undertaking and a lot of work to be done in this space, and an important piece. Moving on to community programs and services, this is kind of the other external facing way we interact with our community. So wellness and fitness, a lot of people think of us in this way. And we do this very competitively, right? We have a diversity of programming here at CA with our 3 different fitness facilities, everything from Pilates to aerial yoga to aqua cycle, you name it. We're also making strides, though, I just like to mention this, in making wellness more accessible to more people. Our team is really going above and beyond and making that extra effort when they can to get out of the 4 walls of these facilities and go out in the community and share their knowledge, share their excitement, share their passion around this health and wellness space with our community, and making that, again, accessible to as many people as possible. Sports and recreation on the right here. So we're talking everything from our 23 outdoor pools, which I know a lot of you know and love, our indoor pools, tennis, golf, skate park, and sports park, if you haven't checked that out, and the Columbia Ice Rink, all under the CA umbrella. And to wrap up the pictures here, we have our youth and teen services. So we have a youth and teen center in Oakland Mills. We have camps during the summer, and we have school age services, before and after school care. So really, this is a year-round effort, and we're actively working to expand this youth programming in any way we can. And then arts and culture, we have our arts center that is, thriving. Apparently, I'm not a big ceramics person, but apparently it's got some really amazing kilns that are like regionally sought after. It's really great stuff. And, we're working as hard as we can to bring back some of our multicultural programming as well. So that is definitely on the forefront. And that is always a lens we're using when it comes to programming as well, trying to make sure that we are really representing our diverse community when we're out there. And then one thing you may not know about us, we are the home to the Columbia, Maryland Archives. These are, this is the space where artifacts and exhibits, as I have learned the terminology is, live for Columbia. It's really about preserving the history of this unique community. And fun fact, it's there for everyone. You can go in at any point in time. Of course, appointments are very much preferred, but you can come in and experience that history for yourself as well. It's not just about researchers. So, make sure to check that out. For you folks that like to take in words instead of pictures, wanted to make sure we covered all of our bases. This is just another way of sharing what we do at Columbia Association. So this is a kind of list of all of our assets that we manage, and another way of looking at how we are committed to being a steward for this community and a service provider for this community as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there are a lot of behind the scenes departments that are doing hard work to make sure that all of this stays up and running and that we're able to serve our community. And this is just a short list of those as well. Of course, we have, our finance, our audit, our general counsel, IT, purchasing, risk management, all of these covered as well. But folks you may not necessarily see out and about in the community all of the time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan, and she is going to cover some of the financial overview, again, trying to keep it at a very high level here, but give you a sense of what the budget looks like for us.
Well, thank you, Dannika. And I noticed that you don't have any fun pictures of people working feverishly at their computers or anything, but we're okay with that. We know that we're holding the whole organization together here, but
we'll work on that.
I just wanted to start with reminding U.S. community members that CA is in very sound, really excellent financial condition. We have had ongoing excellent audit results for decades, and that continued even through COVID. We were recently able to, in 2015, we were very proud that we had our credit rating upgraded by Moody's to AA1, which is a big deal for a nonprofit. It's really unusual to achieve that level, and that's the board's leadership and the staff's hard work and community involvement. And I wanted to point out that the board also, to shore up our finances, approved an emergency cash reserves policy and program in April of 2021. And We've been steadily working towards a goal of a little over $18 million targeted for April of 2028. We're, as of last April, as of the end of April 2023, we were a little over $8 million. So really doing some solid leadership and work at the board level to make sure that the organization stays in sound and excellent financial condition. So next slide. So Dannika mentioned the annual charge, and just a couple things to point out here on the background of this. So the annual charge is a formula. It's got with two components. You'll all probably pay it directly. So you've seen the invoice, and it shows, there's rate and valuation. This is unusual. This is the only planned community that I'm aware of that bases its fee on the valuation. It's a very progressive format and structure, and it really reflects Rouse's commitment to equity and to financial equity, which was something that really wasn't a phrase, in his time. But to have that based on the property value and not just a regressive flat fee is something to be aware of and proud of for our community. And the cap limits the amount generally by which a property valuation can increase year over year. You might be interested to know that the maximum, the legislative amount, is 10%, but it's been the board's set that cap at 3.5% since 2017, and before that it was slightly lower. The rate is at 68 cents in the current fiscal year, and that's what we've proposed. The staff has proposed for the FY25 budget. That's almost 10% less than the maximum rate of 75 cents, and that's been in place for many years. And you can compare that to Howard County. They've been using a 5% cap for decades. And just to refresh your memories also, the annual charge is a non-discretionary fee, and as Dannika noted, it's applied to commercial properties in almost really identically the same way as residential. And that's also something that's unique to Columbia as a planned community. So, the commercial property owners are very much contributing to making this the great place that it is to live and work and play. And it's a payment under a contract. So it's not a tax. Only governments can impose taxes. So it's not possible for CA to do that. And because it's a payment under a contract is generally why it's not tax deductible. So it's probably more than you wanted to know, but if you're thinking about board service, this will be something that you would be getting more familiar with as you do that. Okay, so this FY24, so I should have said that our fiscal year, Columbia Association's fiscal year, starts May 1 and ends April 30. So we're in the fourth quarter of our fiscal year 2024. And this slide shows you just a sort of order of magnitude of what the organization is like. This is an $80 million organization, basically. It's a large organization. It's a complicated organization. If you look at the components, 39 and change % of the money coming in comes from the residential annual charge. So there's one set of customers to interact with and one way of managing those relationships and those dollars. But right behind that, at 36% is the income that comes in from the community programs and services, and all those beautiful pictures of people enjoying fitness, wellness, before and after school care, art center classes are all contributing to that number. And that now has outpaced the commercial annual charge. So commercial annual charge payers come in at about 20%, and the rest are just small dollars that vary more often. Right now, interest rates are favorable, so the interest and other contributions on $1.8 million. So how do we use those dollars? Where do they go? So every year lately, well, every year anyway, the CA board approves a budget, and this is the FY24 approved budget. The board's voting next week on a draft FY25 budget. So, while community programs and services brings in the second largest component of income, they use the single largest amount. Right after that, community operations, so caring for that open space and the buildings, providing for those wonderful programs at Lakefront Live and at Festive Fridays, and all of that fun and all of that hard work is supported by 21% of our income. Capital expenditures, those are the reinvestments or investments in equipment, building improvements, pathway renovation and expansion, and all of the kind of hardscape things that you would expect. The village community operations, so those are the 10 village community operations. Laura's going to give us good insight into how they operate, are almost 7% of the CA's annual budget in total. So just to hit the highlights there, and you'll see on there also a budgeted investment or addition to emergency cash reserves that I mentioned earlier. And this next slide is just another picture or a way to look at with FY fiscal year 2025 dollars, the relationship between the income coming in on the left and the uses of those dollars on the right. And we just to draw the blue arrow there to highlight community programs and services and how close they are to paying for themselves, even though some of their programs and services are free, like such as the archives, such as the international programs to a great extent. And so those programs and services do contribute a great deal to CA, to the quality of life, and to our financial structure. Next one. And that's it. I think, yeah, I see Eric's on board, so I'll just turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Cool. So basically, when you join the board, you have basically three primary responsibilities. You have the duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. And without getting into specifics that you would probably want to talk to the GC about, general counsel. The main idea here is that when you're on the board, your primary duty is to the organization and to make sure that you're doing what's in the best interest of the organization and thereby the community and your neighbors as a whole. So basically, you want to take the same level of responsibility that you would do for yourself as you do for the community. So you want to make sure that you're really holding the community and the organization's best interest at heart. So that's the primary thing you want to keep in mind is you're always holding the organization and the community above yourself. Next slide, please. So again, we have several major roles. First thing is the budget. We'll actually be looking at the budget and approving that at the next meeting a week from today. This has been a cycle that started in September where we present priorities. We look at both the capital budget and the operating budget. Those both get approved. And during this process, we also approved the annual charge rate. And I think Susan probably gave a much more detailed description of what the budget is, so I'm not going to go any further into that. The other things we do is we approve strategy, and we look at setting strategy, and then we also oversee the president CEO. So one of the things we're doing now is looking at going through the process of selecting the next president CEO for the organization. Next slide, please.
And I am so sorry to interrupt, Eric, but I see a couple folks with their hands up. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew we see you. We're not ignoring you. We are asking that any questions or comments go into that Q&A function. So I'm going to go ahead and lower those hands, but please, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in there.
So right now I can see the slides. If I bring up the chat, I won't be able to see any slides. So if there are any questions that you want me to address right now, I could.
Nope. We've got no active questions. Just some people raised their hands in the other little function. I just wanted to make sure they knew we were not ignoring them. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the current board of directors. There's 10 people on the board, one representative from each village. So if you apply for the position, you'll be running as the representative from your village. You'll be running for that position, and each each village will hold elections in April, according to the village rules. So each village operates slightly differently. Some villages, the CA rep runs on 1-year terms. Some villages run on 2-year terms. So this is the current board the way it stands. So I'm the basically co-chairing with Andy Stack, who's next to me in the picture, and then we have members from all 10 villages on here. Next slide. So the expectations, so the basic expectation is we have meetings roughly twice a month, except for November, December, where it's once a month, and then there are no meetings in August. In addition, if you join the board, you're expected to participate on committees. We have the risk committee and audit committee are standing committees, which you can participate on. We also have crossover members that work with the Inner Arbor Trust that could be on crossover members onto their board. In addition, there are additional extra meetings that pop up from time to time. Like we actually had an additional extra meeting last week to discuss the strategic plan. That was actually a public meeting. So and then there's also events that board members are expected to attend. We will have stakeholder events, and then also you want to be out in your community. In addition, board members are also liaisons back to their village, so you should also be attending your village meetings once a month. So at a minimum, it's pretty close to once a week, roughly. So it's a pretty big commitment. In fact, it's probably bigger than you expect, but it's significant, but it's worthwhile because you're really doing something to really benefit a 100,000 person city, and that's something. So it's been a very rewarding experience. And I think that's my last slide. So yeah.
Eric, you have one more.
One more slide.
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
So sorry. So yeah, sometimes we have closed meetings. So those will occur in addition to the 20 meetings a year, and they'll be closed if we're talking about personnel issues or other legal issues, and we'll work with the general counsel on that. And then, as I already mentioned, board members are also expected to participate on other committees, including the audit committee, risk committee, and in addition, each board member will participate on the board operations committee once during a 1-year cycle. And what the board operations committee does, it sets the agenda for a 3-month interval. So it'll set the agenda for the quarter, and that's the agenda we'll work off of. Now I think that's my last slide. So at that point, are there any questions?
We do not have any yet. And again, I just want to reiterate that if you had your hand up, I pinged you as well, but please just throw those in the Q&A. You can get to that by clicking on the two little speech bubbles at the bottom of your screen if you do your mouse, kind of swipe your mouse down there. But thank you, Eric. And Laura, you are up.
In that case, I will sign off.
You might want to stay on, Eric, in case there's any other questions, but I will leave that up to you. Laura, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Dannika. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Mayton. I'm the village manager for the village of Hickory Ridge. Yeah, so it's my job to talk about the role of the villages and village boards. So in Columbia Association, there are 9 villages and town center. So there's 9 other people who do the same job as I do. We're all the staff heads for the villages, and the village board guides the village and directs us. You can go ahead and go on, Dannika. So the role of the villages and the village boards is to enforce the covenants that has to do with the maintenance and how the exterior of your home appears. We advocate for residents. So if residents have problems or concerns that need to be addressed by the county or CA or any other issues, the board and the village advocates for them. We host village events that could be for anyone, from story times for young children all the way up to events for seniors and everything in between. Each village kind of does its own range of events, but all villages have a wide variety of events. We also offer other programming like master gardener classes and other lectures. We also manage our community and neighborhood centers. Some villages, like mine, for example, I have 1 building in Hickory Ridge that we manage. Other villages may have as many as 4. It varies from village to village. And the majority of the job is to communicate with residents. So as a village board member, you communicate with residents, bring residents' concerns to the rest of the board, and advocate for those residents. Go ahead. So yeah, CA plays no role in the election process other than helping us publicize it, which we all really, really appreciate. Each village does hold its own elections this year. We all agree what date we're going to hold them on. Village elections this year are on Saturday, April 20th. The hours that the elections will be held will vary from village to village, but your village will be publicizing it. The village board sets its own election rules for positions on the board and for the Columbia Council. And as Eric mentioned earlier, different villages do have different terms. In my village, village board members are elected to one-year terms, and our CA board of director person is elected to a one-year term. Other villages have two-year terms. It varies from village to village, as dictated in our village documents. We do determine voter eligibility and options for voting. So of course, in order to be eligible to vote, you have to live on Columbia Association assessed property, and some villages allow everyone to vote. Some villages allow one per property. But in order to run for the village board or the CA board, you do have to live on Columbia Association assessed property. Yeah. Ooh. So we are in mid-February right now. Candidates packets begin to come available in mid-February. The Hickory Ridge packet is available. However, some other ones may not be available till early or mid-March. Each village has its own candidate packet, so you'll need to find that on that village board website and submit it to the village. Some include signatures, some include a statement. They're all a little bit different. It's all dictated by what the village board thinks is reasonable to ask candidates to do. Most villages do in early April host some sort of candidate night for contested races. So this is an opportunity for candidates for the village board and for the Columbia Association board to speak to residents, discuss the points you feel are relevant and make your views known and the reasons why people should elect you in particular. As I said, the election day is Saturday, April 20th this year. And there's a lovely new board orientation that CA is going to be doing for both village board members who have been elected and CA board members who have been elected, or even maybe those who are in a contested race, perhaps that hasn't been decided, for a board orientation on Thursday, May 2nd, which is terrific. And then the first organizational meeting of the CA board and annual meeting of the Columbia Council is Thursday, May 9th. However, each village has their village board meeting dates on different days of the week and different, days of the month. For example, in Hickory Ridge, our board meetings are on the second and fourth Mondays of the month. Other boards meet once a month. Other boards meet different days of the month. So each village has its own tempo that you should look into to see what kind of a commitment it would be for that particular village. And I just wanted to say too, I kind of missed it on the last slide, that voting is also determined by the village board. So some village boards allow electronic voting, some do mailed voting, everyone does in-person voting, but there's a variety of ways to vote in the election as well. So, yep, every village is electing board members this year to the village board, and only 7 villages are electing their CA representatives, because those villages that have terms that run every 2 years, the person stays for 2. So every other year there is no election for that position. 3 villages, including mine, elect CA representatives every year, and villages electing CA board representatives this year are Harper's Choice, Hickory Ridge, Oakland Mills, Owen Brown, Town Center, and Wild Lake. The other villages will be having their elections for their representative next year. All right,
Awesome.
and that's it.
That's it. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. So a couple more things, and please, 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 if you have questions, put them in that Q&A. None yet, but certainly welcome to put them in there. There is still time. So Laura mentioned this. She was very kind to do a little shout out, but we at CA, again, are not involved in the election process itself. However, we're committed to providing information to help everyone be involved with that. And so this is what we have up and running. It's called Columbia Votes. And we work closely with all 10 of the village managers, Laura included, to compile the information and make it more accessible to residents. A lot of that has to do with the fact that of what Laura just explained, every one of the villages does it a bit differently. And so it's nice to have it all in one place. The other thing that we have on this site, in case you do not know what village you live in, because that, may or may not be a lot of you, we have a village lookup tool. So you put your address in and it will tell you what village you do live in. I would highly suggest, because this is a fairly new tool, to go ahead and pick up the phone, call your village that pops up there for you, and make sure, just verify with your village that you are in that village, and make sure that you can vote in that village as well, or run. And then we have a space as well where people can sign up for specific reminders for your village elections. So we curate lists for every village. So columbiaassociation.org/elections, or you can scan that code there to get to that page. And, last but not least, just wanted to show another quick snapshot of the community that we serve. It is a privilege to serve you every day, and we welcome you to join us in that privilege and honor of serving the Columbia community, because it is truly an honor. Again, any questions, please throw them in. And I apologize that in this format, Carol, I see your hand up. We're trying to push all of the questions and comments into the Q&A just to make sure that we can moderate those effectively. So, with this format, we don't show faces and we don't unmute, just to keep things a little bit more, organized here. So appreciate your interest and definitely appreciate your feedback. Someone's asking if these slides are available. They certainly can be. So what I can commit to is we're going to post this whole session up on Columbia Votes, that page. This will be on our YouTube page. And additionally, I'm happy to make these slides available as well on that page too, because it is a good synopsis of what we're heading into for this election season, if you will. So I just want to give like a brief beat to make sure nobody has any other questions. And if any of our panel wanted to add anything else, if any other ideas or comments popped into your head as we were presenting here.
I'll just say that if anybody is interested in running, feel free to reach out to your village office. There are people there who can answer all of your questions about when the meetings are, what the commitment's like, all those sorts of things. All the village managers are happy to talk to any interested candidates anytime.
Okay, we do have one question coming in, and I'm not sure exactly where to direct this. And if we can't, okay, Laura, go for it, Laura. Are candidates investigated for adherence to covenant guidelines?
So the definition of adherence to covenant guidelines varies from village to village.
There we go.
Some villages do compliance inspections of properties when a person is elected to ensure that the person's property is in compliance with the covenants and guidelines of that village. Other villages only prohibit you from running if you have an active violation case against you. So it's a little different for each village. And if you want to know, call your village office or email your village manager and ask them what the requirements are.
I think that's one of the morals of this story, is the best thing you can do is pick up the phone or visit your village center. I'm not sure exactly where this question is going, so I hesitate to ask. Somebody's wondering about why CA would serve all of Howard County, and I can certainly speak to this. Perhaps Dennis, you'd like to speak to it as well. CA is certainly committed to enhancing the quality of life in Columbia, and we are part of the greater Howard County community. So by virtue of us serving the folks here and enhancing life here and providing the amenities that are available to everyone and accessible to everyone here, that's probably going to bolster the greater community of Howard County. If anybody wants to add anything else to that, then I'm happy to open the floor, but great. Again, take another breath. And I will go ahead and share my contact information as well. Laura kind of beat me to the punch a little bit here. communications@columbiaassociation.org. If you have any other questions or concerns or suggestions for this presentation, feel free to send them there. And as Laura mentioned, please, by all means, if you have specific questions about how to run in your individual village and or the elections in your individual village, how to get involved, be sure to reach out to your respective village association. Dennis, any parting words for the crew here as we wrap up? Want to make sure we respect everyone's time.
I would just say that you'll find it very fulfilling if you decide to run for office. It's service to the community, and it's incredibly worthwhile. And hope that you decide to join us.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, seeing no more questions right now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. We hope this has been informative. We hope you walk away learning something. We hope this has been helpful, and hopefully we will see much more of all of you as this quote unquote election season continues. So thank you for being engaged in your community, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks to our panelists as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.